From the makers of Blood Simple and Raising Arizona, a world where nothing is what it seems to be. Leo, is he still the boss?
The day I back down from a fight, Casper's welcome to the rackets, this town, and my place at the table.
Casper, can he muscle in?
I'm sick of taking a strap from you, Leo. And I'm sick of the high hat.
Tom, would he sell out a friend?
You shouldn't be confronting Jenny Casper. That's what I've been trying to tell you.
I can still trade body blows with any man in this town. Except you, Tom.
And Verna.
Verna, is she Leo's girl?
What did you tell Leo?
I told him you were a tramp and he should dump you.
I want everybody to be friends. You, me, Leo, the Dane.
Know who I am?
The Dane, has he got it figured?
You dumping Leo for the guy who put a bullet in your brother?
Bernie, will he turn the tables?
Don't smart me. I want to watch you squirm. I want to see you sweat a little.
All you gotta do to show you're a friend is give me Bernie Byrne bum.
Tommy, you can't do this. You don't bump guys. It's not right, Tom. I can't do it.
Two of us have faced worse odds.
Never without reason.
I thought you said you didn't care about Leo.
I said we were through. It's not the same thing.
I'm talking about friendship. I'm talking about character. I'm talking about ethics.
Albert Finney, Gabriel Byrne, Marcia Gay Harden, John Turturro.
I can't die out here in the woods like a dumb animal. I can't die.
He's still alive.
You expect me to believe you?
No.
It's you all over town. Alive and no heart.
No one is what they seem to be.
Up is down, black is white.
At Miller's Crossing.
I think one of the problems for reviewers was because it was so different and because it was so unique and so original that they found it very difficult to place. I think reviewers like to place movies in boxes and put tags on them and so forth. But in almost every aspect of this movie, you cannot put a label or a tag. Nothing, as they say in the movie, is what it seems. Everything is upside down. And I must say, when I read the script first of all, I thought it was a comedy. I was amazed to see at the completed film the level of darkness that exists below the comedy. And in fact, the comedy sometimes takes second place to that. These guys, I think, you know, they are totally original movie makers. And what will happen, I think, is that they will spawn imitators, but they are the guys. It's not that obvious kind of gangster film with machine guns and people just shooting each other, explosions and so forth. It's much deeper than that. In a way, it kind of reminds me of a play because it's a movie that you listen to as well as look at. And the kind of themes that it deals with are themes that are especially relevant to today's age. I mean, it's not just the interpersonal relationships with the characters which makes the movie interesting, but the themes like loyalty, betrayal, friendship, trust and power, and love and fear of love and so forth. But I think in a way they use the genre of the gangster film to put their point of view of the world to an audience, and their point of view of the world is always one which catches you off guard. You're always forced to re-examine your attitude towards what they're telling you. Tom was a character that I think you rarely come across in a film script. He was a character with depth and dimension. He was a character who operated from the outside. He was a loner. He was a very lonely man. He was a man who is a manipulator of other people and is a man who tries to manipulate events. And his downfall at the end is because he naively believes that he can control everything around him, when in fact that is not possible on any level. Tom was an intriguing character because what he doesn't say is as important as what he does say. And sometimes in life you find that people can say things while they mean something else. And that ambivalence was something like really interesting to play. I mean, she reminded me a little bit of Barbara Stanwyck, one of those old movie actresses, you know. And we were just talking earlier on about how few interesting women there are on the screen today. I mean, it really bores me when I see women in movies reduced to just like saying, don't do it, and I'll be here when it's all over kind of roles, you know. And this was a role where a woman motivates the action. It was great.
There's this one line, you remember, where Gabriel or Tom walks into the ladies' room and he says, intimidating helpless women is part of what I do. And I say, well, then find one and imitate her. I must have phoned my family when they would say, describe this character. Okay, this is who she is. And I always went back to that one line because she's not easily intimidated. She can take care of herself. She's tough. I also liked that she wasn't the whore with the heart of gold, in a way, this sort of cliche of this tough woman, but really she just wants to be taken care of. She was tough from the inside out, and she could take care of herself. She wanted poker. She won his hat. She had a gun. I liked that. I looked at pictures a lot, and I looked at old movies. The one that I remember really clearly was Public Enemy, because I found that there were similarities between, I thought, myself and Jean Harlow. There was something quite big and fleshy about her face, and I felt the same about my face. And but more it was this kind of a character that she played. But also I would look at real people and pictures of real people of the time, because you can get into the trap of playing an actor. So I would look at pictures and I would think about what were they doing to their face? What were they doing to their hair? What were the women changing? And a lot of those women would strip away their eyebrows and their eyes became very focused. And so we did that, and I'd been down with the Coens in New Orleans. We had to do this costume and makeup testing, and I was insisting that eyebrows are so important here, important. So we pluck away, and I have them draw these big old arch things on my eyes. And at the end of the day, Joel and Ethan came back and they said, Marsh, it's not a vampire movie, and it's not a documentary. So we adjusted and found things for me. Also, I studied the time a bit and read, went to Brooklyn, hung out there just kind of to be in went to seedier areas and saw how I felt on the street, how I handled myself on the street, that type of thing. I think they're incredibly graceful. That was my first impression of them when I met them. They're not the most verbose people in the world, but they were so graceful in the audition situation. They made you feel like they wanted you to be there. They are clear as bells on what they want, on what they've written, the way they want it to look. And then they're kind of silly with each other, a little bit silly.
Albert Finney, oh God, what can you say about Albert Finney except that, you know, I never thought I'd get an opportunity to work with an actor of his magnitude. I mean, I'd seen Albert in so many movies. I'd seen him on stage. He happened to be one of my favorite actors, and to work with him was just. It was a thrill, first of all, and at the beginning I was a little bit intimidated by it because he was like such an incredibly powerful figure, but he gave everything that he had. He is not by any manner of means a selfish actor. He just gave, and it was so wonderful to be with somebody who was so giving, and yet at the same time so unassuming and so modest, so accessible. He was great.
I graduated NYU with a degree in political science, which meant I wasn't going to ever work, you know, unless I became an academic or something. And I took a year off, and I didn't know what I wanted to do after college. And I liked to write, and I really liked still photography. I owned Leicas and stuff like that. And somehow decided that if I went to film school, NYU graduate film school, I would stay off the job market for another 3 years and maybe figured out if I liked film. I was not a film buff. I was not someone who went to a lot of movies. And at film school, I very early on discovered, for whatever reason, that I had an ability to light. So when I got out of film school, I bought a used 16mm camera called the CP16 Reflex. I figured if I owned a camera, I could call myself a cameraman. And I ended up shooting industrials for like Reeves Teletape and the Wall Street Journal and machines on how to make cardboard boxes, stuff like that. Shot some pornos because I could get rentals on my camera. And one night I was at a party at a woman's house named Hillary Ney, and there was only one other Jew in the party, and that was Joel Coen. And Joel and his brother Ethan had just written a script for Blood Simple. And the way they were going to get the money to make Blood Simple was to shoot a trailer as if it was a finished movie. So because I owned a camera, Joel Coen that night hired me to shoot Joel and Ethan's trailer. And we became friends. The footage looked really good. And I helped them raise the money, which took a year to make Blood Simple. And the first day on the set of Blood Simple was the first day that Joel, Ethan, or I had ever been on a set of a professional movie with a 35mm camera. I had the assistant cameraman come over to my apartment earlier the night before we started to shoot just to show me like where the on-off switch was and all that. And we ended up making Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, and then Miller's Crossing together. Partly I'm known as a cinematographer for having a very energetic camera, or almost a camera where the camera is a character in the movie. I'm not exactly sure where that came from. I have a suspicion. One is a psychological decision, which is an only child of Jewish parents, which means I need a lot of attention. So I think as a cameraman, as a cinematographer, by sort of moving the camera a lot, I'm sort of saying, here I am. I know you don't see me, but I'm back here doing all this stuff. So I think that's part of it. But I started out in still photography, although I never worked at it professionally, but it was always a great love of mine. And for whatever reasons, I was attracted to wide-angle lenses. And to this day, I would say between the 9 movies I photographed and the 7 movies I've directed, I would say 80% of all those 16 movies, the lens that has been on the camera while I was either a cinematographer or a director was either a 21mm lens or wider. I see in a very wide way, and what a wide lens does, which is both good and bad, is a wide lens puts everything in focus. And not only is everything in focus, but everything now has equal value to the viewer. You can look there, 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 there. With a telephoto lens, you choose where the focus is, and everything in front of it or behind it is out of focus, so the viewer knows right where to look. With a wide lens, because everything is in focus, I still need to tell the audience where to look. And the way I do that is by moving the camera towards the object I want you to look at. So that's why if you look at the movies I've shot, with the exception of Miller's Crossing, there's a tremendously energetic camera because I'm trying to tell you, look here. And if you look at all the work I've done, there's a great deal of straight-ahead push-ins into people's faces. The other great thing about wide-angle lenses and why they have so much energy is with a wide-angle lens, with a 21mm that's here, that's only 2 feet away from me, I'm seeing from my belly button to my head because the lens is so wide. So just a little bit of lean, this much movement, and now you're on a close-up of me because I've moved closer to the lens. So I love how by putting a wide-angle lens close to someone, it gives them an energy of performance. Little leans, little nuances play very big, important roles in their performance. You know, Kubrick used wide-angle lenses in a not funny way, and the secret is what he did is he didn't move he didn't move the camera with the wide-angle lenses. He uses them almost the opposite of the way I do. He uses wide-angle lenses to get far away and alienate and separate the audience from the person and make the person be really far away and small and alienated in this environment. I use the same wide-angle lenses and get really close to people because by doing that, audiences understand. In either case, they unconsciously understand where the camera is. And in my case, and it's my personality, I'm saying, come on, let's go have fun with this guy. And I'm bringing the camera and the audience right up to that character, and the audience senses that they are right next to that person. Kubrick is saying, come on, audience, let's get far away from this guy. We're going to go way back and observe him, and he won't even know we're observing him, and he's going to be in this big, lonely, cold space, whether it's 2001, whether it was Barry Lyndon, and whether it was a Full Metal Jacket, where again, he uses great wide-angle lenses in a very alienating way. So wide-angle lenses sort of are chameleons that take on the personality of who's using them. There are only two movies that I've ever used long lenses on. One was Blood Simple and one was Miller's Crossing. I read the script, and Joel and Ethan said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, you know, there are two kind of movies. There are wacky movies and handsome movies, and I think this has to be a handsome movie. And Ethan said, yeah, it should look really handsome. And I said, well, that means we're going to have to use long lenses, because long lenses are handsome and wide-angle lenses are funny. We wanted it to be handsome and muted and not wacky, and also, beautiful and manly. We use the word manly a lot in reference to Miller's Crossing. The other thing Ethan described to me about the movie in pre-production is, I said, so what do you want the movie to look like? And he said, it should be a handsome movie about men in hats. And, that's what we did. Hats are fun, too, because you can control how much of a face you're seeing by how low the light is. If it's here, you don't see the eyes. If you bring the light down, you see the eyes. And that became a very big issue. So eyes or no eyes? No eyes. Okay, great. Move the light higher. We storyboard our movies, which is a very interesting process because we storyboarded 3 movies together, Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, and Blood Simple. By the third one, they started to loosen up a little bit in terms of the relationship between what they drew and what they would allow the actors to do. Blood Simple and Raising Arizona are virtually frame by frame the movie in storyboards. If you look at the storyboards for those 2 movies, you will see how close we were. Miller's Crossing, I would say, they loosened up a bit, and perhaps only 95 or 98% of the shots are exactly as we drew them. Pretty much the storyboards that we drew is a movie we shot, and it's a very efficient way of making movies. As a director, weirdly, it gives you more freedom because it lets you come in and work with the actors knowing that you already have a plan. And we did change things a little bit, but very, very little. I mean, if you look at the storyboards against the movie, you'll be shocked how close they are. There were certain locations that really made that movie, and I remember finding the forest that we were going to shoot a lot of Miller's Crossing, and it is what the title refers to, this location called Miller's Crossing. I remember finding these beautiful trees, this incredible forest, and saying to Joel and Ethan, this will work, but only if we only shoot it on overcast days. It will not work on sunny days. It will be too contrasty. Miller's Crossing should always have this sort of soft, fog-enshrouded feel to it. And when I say Miller's Crossing, I mean the location, not the entire movie. I specifically chose Fujifilm to only shoot that one scene in because Fuji is less poppy, less primary, and Kodak green is a very vibrant green, and Fuji's green is a little softer and bluer. And I really wanted this one location to feel very soft and muted. And Joel and Ethan looked at me and said, well, Barry, you know us, and if it's sunny, we're not going to a cover set, or we're not going to drive back into town because it's sunny. We're shooting whether it's sunny or cloudy. I said, it has to be cloudy. And they said, well, good luck. And it was too big an area to tent in or make cloudy. And we shot in those woods for probably 7 or 8 or 9 days. And of those, let's say 9 days, the very last shot on the very last day was the only time the sun ever came out for those 9 days. And there's one shot where I think Gabriel is in the background throwing up or something. I can't remember. where there's a hint of sunlight in the deep background, but everything else was overcast, and it was like kismet for me because it was exactly what I needed visually for that whole sequence. At the end of the movie, John Turturro came up to me, and John's performance is of a sort of whiny, needy, obnoxious homosexual Jew. And Turturro came up to me on the last day and said, "I just want to thank you so much for being the cinematographer." And I said, "Well, you know, you're very welcome. The pleasure was all mine." He said, "No, not because of the lighting. I based my entire performance on watching you with Joel and Ethan." So that was sort of adorable. On the very last shot, I don't know if you know this, but the last shot we filmed was a scene in the ladies' room of Albert Finney's sort of dance hall, bar, speakeasy place. And Albert Finney is dressed as the bathroom matron. He's in a black outfit with white frills, in a wig and all that. And Albert didn't want to go home. He loved New Orleans so much. He literally is in there as the matron. The great thing about working with the Coens, and I miss that very much, is that I really felt that we were, the three of us, a team of filmmakers. And I never viewed myself as a cinematographer any more than Ethan didn't view himself as a cinematographer. Also, because I did 3 films with them, and this was the 3rd one, there was a sense of a shortcut of conversation. And they enjoyed me and encouraged me to take bigger and bigger chances with the lighting. So it was a dream come true. It was the most fun I ever had shooting a movie. You know, people assume it would be like Raising Arizona or something that was wacky and funny. Those are the hard ones. Miller's Crossing was easy, and the backgrounds were easy because everywhere you looked was visually a great, stunning, dark location. Miller's Crossing was a perfect experience for me. It was the first movie I really got to light. We've agreed we want it to look handsome, and we're going to use long lenses, which lets you bring the lights much closer to the people. I had great-looking people to light. Gabriel Byrne is like movie star handsome, and I just every day felt so happy and confident about what we were doing. The very first day of shooting is the very first shot in the movie that starts on a close-up of a whiskey glass being put down and ice cubes go in it and whiskey is poured, and we just do the slow pushback. And from the first day we saw dailies, I felt very much like I was lighting a movie unlike any movie I had lit before. It was going to look beautiful, and it was just a perfect experience because for the first time really in my career, I was able to just purely light the movie.